Hello and welcome to the 2015 Cycling Weekly Tour de France preview with me, Rebecca Charlton. Today, it's all about looking at those key contenders for this year's edition. And joining me for the insight in today's studio, it's news writer Nick Bull, news editor Hugh Gladstone, and of course a man that knows a thing or two about riding the Tour de France, it's Malcolm Elliott. Welcome guys, thanks for coming in to join me. So Nick, who are the key four? We keep mentioning these four key contenders. Tell us who they are.
We've got defending champion Vincenzo Nibali, we've got Chris Froome and Alberto Contador, who've both won the race before, and we've got the Colombian Nairo Quintana.
Hugh, things didn't exactly go to plan for Froome last year. What are your expectations for him coming back for this year's race?
Last year he fell off on stage 4, fractured a wrist. He started the next day, stage 5, but it was the cobble stage. He didn't even make it onto the cobbles. I think he crashed twice before the cobbles actually happened, and that was race over for him. So he had a very disappointing year. He's come back again this year. He's won the Ruta del Sol. He's had a bit of illness in the spring, but he's just bounced back to win the Dauphiné. And so he's going into the Tour in very good shape, yeah.
Do you not feel that because he's not defending champion this year, there's a lot of pressure off him? I think everyone's going to be looking at Nibali as a defending champion, whereas Froome maybe has that advantage of being the kind of contender again.
I think so, yeah. I mean, the very fact we're talking about a big four rather than Froome, the out-and-out favourite here, is probably sort of the case in point.
Yeah, I think Brailsford's come out and said, of course, the pressure is off a little bit as he's not defending and going in that position. Malcolm, I mean, how much pressure is on a rider when they're in that position? How much difference can it make when you're not?
I think there's big pressure on all four of them anyway, regardless of who won last year. That's just something that they have to deal with. My personal opinion, I still look at last year, Nibali winning last year, and think, well, what would have happened if Contador and Froome had remained in the race? And I don't really think he would have been a winner. So I see a top three really, rather than, and I'm putting Nibali quite just outside that top three of the main contenders. Interesting.
Do you agree, guys, with the Nibali point?
Well, Nibali did ride a very good race early last year. You know, he was it into your hometown, Malcolm. Yeah. He sort of blitzed it. Was that where he picked up the yellow jersey?
It was, yeah, in Sheffield, yeah.
Sheffield, and you know, and then he was out attacking on the cobbles in northern France, and he really did dominate the race. This was kind of the counter-argument to your point, yeah. But I don't know, it's very hard to say, isn't it, how he would have performed.
I'm also perhaps just taking his form at the Dauphiné a little bit into account as well, though. I mean, he had a good day, but 2 bad days. He seemed, his form seemed quite inconsistent there, and so just weighing it all up, I think that Contador is going to be coming out fighting again, and Froome he's going to have his work cut out.
Again, disaster for Contador, of course, last year. What can we expect from him? And you know, he's been looking good so far this year. Well,
based on the Giro, I think we expect a rather combative performance again from Contador. I think the key thing for him is how he actually recovers from the Giro. And I don't know if we're actually going to get an indication of that until probably the final week. I think the first 2 weeks he may come out of it and we may see, you know, he's still got the form, but after the, you know, he gets to the Alps and you've got those back-to-back days and the climbs, that's where it's really going to tell. And actually, has he pushed himself too hard? I've got a feeling he will tire in those final few stages. I think he may have gone too hard in the Giro, but you never know with Contador. There's always that element of surprise that he has about him. You know, you can all of a sudden launch an attack that just blows a race wide apart.
What do you think, guys? Can you do it again?
He's so experienced, the most experienced, with the most Grand Tour wins of any current rider competing. The way he handled himself in the last week of the Giro there, pretty much single-handed against Astana. That for me, that was even in Contador's context deeply impressive. So, but it's a huge ask to go from the Giro to the Tour. Maybe that's a mistake, and perhaps he's undoing, but. We shall see. Let's
talk about Quintana, of course. We haven't mentioned him yet in the discussion. What's it, 60 kilos his weight at the moment, even less than that? I mean, we're looking at him in the climb, surely.
I think so. I mean, we've not seen that much from this year. The last thing we saw him win was Tirreno Adriatico, and when did he last race?
He last raced in Romandy. I think he finished 8th overall at Romandy, which is end of April. So that's, you know, it's a fair way, and it's a fair few months out between that and the Tour de France. When you think we've seen Nibali and Froome in the Dauphiné, we've seen Contador on the Giro and the Route du Sud. I mean, to be away from racing so long, they've clearly got a plan. and it's clearly a deliberate plan to avoid him, you know, being in competition and making sure he's getting the training in. But he's that real unknown factor actually of the four.
That's the exciting thing I think about him. You know, that unknown is kind of, you know, mysteriously disappeared for the last couple of months, and just what kind of shape is he going to come out in? Is it going to be on a scale that the others can't even match?
He sometimes is. I think when he's on his best, he's so kind of small and light and stuff. He seems like another level of climber.
Otherworldly.
Yeah, he's very much a pure climber, really, isn't he? And that's where, you know, he's going to find his gains in the mountains, if anywhere.
He gave Froome a hard time in the final mountain stage in 2013 to Annecy as well. He clipped off at the end. I think Froome was fairly cautious and didn't want to push himself into the deep too much. So I think that maybe hindered, you know, Froome a little bit and gave Quintana a more generous gap. I've got a feeling Quintana's under and will be on the cobbles. I think there's going to be a GC contender that gets thrown out of the race on that day, and I suspect it might be Quintana. I could be completely wrong, and I probably will be, but I don't think he's going to win the Tour de France.
He rode some cobbles though, didn't he, this spring? Was he?
He did, yeah. He did do Wevelgem as well towards the Vlaanderen. So he's clearly, you know, been savvy in getting the preparation in. But there's a part of me that just thinks it's going to be his bad day on stage 5.
Just hoping it's not going to be our man Froome in the same way on those cobbles. His form there is not great.
So we've talked about the negatives there and who you don't think is going to win. I have to ask, who is going to win?
I've got a feeling Nibali's going to do it again.
Interesting. Hugh?
I'm going to stick my neck out and say Quintana. I don't know what he's been doing, but why not? You know, he climbs the best, and I'd say there's a sort of very critical last week there in the Alps, and I'd like to see some fireworks from him.
Malcolm?
I'm going to plump for Contador.
Sticking your neck out there.
That's me.
I'm going to have to go for a hybrid there as well with Malcolm, yeah. I think we'll get the hashtag on that. Talking of hashtags, join the conversation. Tell us your key contenders. Do you agree with us? Do you disagree? Who's going to win this year's edition of the Tour de France? Tell us using the handle @CyclingWeekly and join the conversation. Thanks for watching. See you next time.